groups. You're going to go to whatever camps are going on, whatever retreats are going on. You're a part of it. You're going to play for the church baseball team. You're just not going to go to church and sit for 60 minutes and get up and leave. You're involved in the community, as she was. As it seems like the whole family that lived there in Kansas were very much involved. And probably the most important thing she did from our faith standpoint is I can't recount a day when I didn't see her holding her rosary. It was the first thing she did when she woke up, and it was the last thing she did before she went to sleep, was to pray the rosary. And I just got accustomed to seeing that, and that allowed me to learn how to pray the rosary. She taught me the rosary, and it's something that I do today. Very much, it's part of not of my everyday life. I hope to get to that point. But right now, every day at Mass here at OLS, they have a rosary service around 7:10. And on Wednesday, you'll probably find me up there praying the rosary and then heading on to service. And so a lot of that goes to her. And she was also someone that was very loving, very affectionate, a person that was there to hug me when I was not feeling well, when I was maybe upset. And we could also relate to each other because her mother left her when she was a child as well. She grew up in orphanages, and I remember her telling the story that she was placed in foster homes, and the only time she would get adopted by a foster family was when it was harvest time. And then after 4 months and the harvest has been planted or picked up, then back into the orphanage you'd go. So that was kind of her life, and she was also close to her grandmother as well. So again, very something I could relate to, and again, the Lord definitely knew what He was doing when He made Esperanza my grandmother. And I think probably everyone knows that I suffered a blood disease, which resulted in the amputation of my limbs. Well, this happened when I was staying in Esperanza's house. So Esperanza felt, very much that this was her responsibility. And as I was going through this illness, twice I had died and was brought back to life. She, while I was in the ambulance, made a prayer to God that if He kept me here, and no matter what condition I was in, she was going to dedicate the rest of her life to taking care of me, to making sure that I was going to be okay. And, I didn't die again. So I always felt that along with her love, her prayers were something that, have been very much a mainstay in my recovery and my leading forward in my life and having a spiritual relationship with God. And she did what she said. She very much backed up what she said. When I was in the hospital, she was there every day. When I was in intensive care for about a month and a half, she was there every day. What really put her faith to the test was when I did my rehabilitation in Illinois, in Chicago, Illinois. So she left her home. She quit her job of 25 years. And, she had to leave her husband, my grandfather, as well, to stay with me for 8 months in a hospital in Chicago, Illinois. And they had a separate room for her. And as soon as I got up, she was the first person there with her rosary. And when she went to sleep, she was the last person there to say goodnight and with her rosary. So again, very much an example of Christ-like faith, very much an example of motherly love, very much an example of being a person that lives out her faith. Her name is Esperanza, and which translates into from Spanish to English as hope. So she was really very much my hope and our family's hope. And even though she's 87 years old now and not kind of remembering who I am because she's going through a lot of dementia, I always remind her to pray, and I always tell her that she's in my prayers. So, there's an example of the Lord definitely providing. The last example of a motherly figure for me was someone that I really didn't choose, and to some degree really didn't want this person to be my mother. When I left rehab and I went back with my dad to live in Texas with my sister, my dad was dating and then subsequently would marry a woman. Her name was Edna. And Edna was a person that was the complete 180 of my grandmother Hope. She was very much a very strong, determined woman, spoke her mind, would say what was on her mind, didn't matter what the time was, who was around, what was going on. By golly, she was going to say it. And, and that might offend some people. And sometimes the things she said, it might not have been in the most couth manner. Or it might have been very couth to say. But she was going to say it because she felt it in her heart, and it was the truth at that time, or what she felt. And so, and it's real easy to not, I don't know if anyone has had a step-parent. It could be real easy not to like your step-parent or not want them to be a part of your life. But this woman was very determined to be a mother, to be a part of my life. And the thing with Edna is, she was that type of person to where she would go through a brick wall for you. If you were on her side, I always say that if I got in an alley fight, I'd want her there next to me because she'd be giving everything she has in that fight. But she's also that person that you don't want to cross either, because she'd go through the brick wall for you, but if you were on the wrong side, she'd send you through the brick wall. So that's how Edna is, and what a blessing she's been. Without Edna, who is my mother, in my eyes, she's my mother, I wouldn't have my two brothers. And my two brothers, when they were born, I got to help change their diapers and take them to baseball games and be a part of their life. Right now, one of them is in the military, and the other has two children who are my nephews. So, again, her involvement in my life has been very instrumental and has resulted as well as a blessing. So, again, the Lord has provided. And, there have been other women that have been very instrumental. My Aunt Mary, very strong, determined person, a person that no doubt is an example of. She was one of five boys. She was the only girl, so she very much had to be a very strong person, growing up in a Hispanic family. She's someone that, again, will always be part of my life, and someone that I'll always think about when I think about strong women who have great faith as well. And the Lord has provided in places I've been. I've lived in Atlanta. There's a couple of women there that have been very instrumental. From the Boff family, Joy Carter Boff and her mother Catherine Carter. When I lived in Texas, Janie Ibanez was a very strong woman of faith, of our faith. And even here in Birmingham, Adrian and of course Jill, women of great faith that are exemplary, that are very strong in their family, that very much teach the importance of our faith to their children, and no doubt it's going to be, and it is reflected in their thought, in their activity, in the way they carry themselves. So it can only come from a mother to have that type of faith demonstrated in their home, to be lived out and acted by their family and by the fruits of their family. So, again, the values that I've been taught from these women of strength and of faith is courage, which is a spiritual gift, is faith, and of course, at the end of the day, it was all about love. It was, from my sister, from my grandmother Hope, and showing our faith, from Edna being very strong and determined. All of this was done out of love. And, at the end of the day, the Lord did provide. The Lord provided through these women and through many women from the void of not having my biological mother. And at the end of the day, there was no reason for me to complain. There was no reason for me to worry. There was no reason for me to be sad or depressed or upset. The Lord has provided. And, there are times when, I don't know what direction I was going to head into, and yet, someone would show up. Someone would invite me over to their house. Someone would make me feel part of their family. And, it's that instant that I feel that the Lord has provided. And, there are many things that could be said about family values, but at the end of the day,